everyone, and welcome back to my channel. It's been a while since I posted. I started a video journal about finding happiness in the midst of chaos. And the topic of today's video, self-discipline and happiness, was one that was so important to me that when I started to film this video the first, second, third, fourth time, I found that I was getting scattered. You know, I was just talking my head off and then not being focused and then losing my train of thought. So I thought I should script the video a little bit more. And so I started writing down my ideas, and then, as is my tendency, I wrote my little head off. And by making a video about self-discipline, I am well aware that anybody who knows me in real life, like my husband and kids, and maybe my parents if they watch my videos, will probably go like, yeah, right. Who are you to be making a video on self-discipline? And that's because it's something that does not come naturally to me. But it's something that I have found out the hard way is instrumental in giving me the freedom to pursue the things that make me happy. Because when we talk about happiness in the midst of chaos, I find there's like two different dimensions. The first one is to find happiness in the midst of chaos, being able to find a place of peace and contentment in the middle of our family life, in the middle of the busyness. So there's definitely an interior dimension to finding happiness in the midst of chaos. But there is also a dimension that is maybe exterior, which is us doing the things that make us happy, right? The things that we enjoy doing, the things that we like. And in the midst of a busy family life, it can be really difficult to find the time and the flexibility to pursue those activities that make us happy. Because we're allowed, but it takes a little bit of organization and perspective and self-discipline. So this is why the topic of self-discipline and self-mastery for me was it was a very important lesson to learn. It's a lesson that took a lot of time. I made a lot of mistakes learning it, and I'm still struggling. Given my temperament and personality, I think it will be a struggle until the day I die. So this is why I really wanted to talk to you about this today. I think that anybody who has a background in sports or music or competitive anything will know there's a pipeline, a direct pipeline between self-discipline and freedom. But to somebody that's, awfully normal like me, this is not something that was immediately obvious. And so it's a lesson I learned through a lot of pain and a lot of trial and error. But I also really found a lot of validation in the story of the big rocks. So most people on the internet have come across the story of the big rocks, but I'm going to go over it quickly. So it's the story of a university professor who has a big jar, and he has a pile of big rocks and a pile of smaller rocks and some sand and some water. And so he puts the big rocks in the jar, and the jar gets filled up with the rocks, with the big rocks. And then he asks his students, is the jar full? And they look at it and they say, yes, the jar is full. And so then he takes the smaller rocks and he pours them into the jar, and the smaller rocks lodge themselves somehow around the big rocks. And so now he asks his students, now is the jar full? And they're like, yeah, now the jar is full. And so he takes the sand and he pours the sand in the jar. And then the sand goes around the big rocks and the smaller rocks. And now the jar is full. Then he asks the students, is the jar full? And by now they've kind of caught on, and they're like, no. And so then he pours the water, right? So he's able to pour the water into the jar. Now the jar is full for real. And what's the morale of the story is that the only way to fit everything in the jar is to put the big rocks first. You can only fill the jar with the smaller rocks and the sand and the water if you put the big rocks first. So what's the deal with the big rocks and self-discipline? Well, in the life of a mother or a busy parent, the big rocks are the survival of our family, and they're not always the fun stuff. They're the important stuff. They're the stuff that we cannot do without. And as a mother, what I find is that the big rocks are the stuff self-sacrifice is made of. The whole self-giving dimension of motherhood, parenthood, is those big rocks. And that's the stuff you have to place first. And so the rest of it, the stuff that makes us happy, the little things that we like to add that add quality and to our life, that exterior, like I said, that exterior stuff, that's the realm, like we're the realm of the smaller rocks and of the sand and of the water. And for sure, on any given weekend, you can decide to paint or play music or go out instead of cleaning the toilet, right? Like I'm not talking about these little things, but you can't nickel and dime things like attachment, right? Your children need you, they need you present, food, shelter, like those, if you have bills to pay, those things need to go in first before you can fit the extra, right? And so this is why self-discipline is so important in the story of the big rocks and how we fit our smaller rocks into the jar along with the big rocks that are the non-negotiable that we have to give to our family. It's that self-discipline is what allows us to put the big rocks first, right? We need to take that out of ourselves, put those big rocks first. But it's not only that. Self-discipline not only gives us the ability to put those important things first that are not us, it also gives us the perspective to know what a big rock is and what a smaller rock is, right? Because we can lose perspective. And self-mastery allows us to see the big rocks for what they are, even if they did not tickle our buttons, right? Even if we don't feel like it. Self-discipline allows us to step out of our ego, if you will, to see what really matters, even if it does not include ourselves.